see the for office in the event that he is impeached, because that is the risk that he is facing if he decides to go through with the impeachment process. So, does he really want to risk his political career when he can actually resign and, do the work and possibly come back stronger? So that is for him to decide, but that is an option that he needs to really consider if he wants to salvage his political career. As at now, I believe that Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is at a risk of throwing away his political career. So, should he really consider then resigning? So, resigning, basically, he would be able to have that free time to really go after Ruto, to put himself in that position where he can now actually be the active opposition. And in some quarters, I believe he may want to hijack what is now going on, what we call the Gen Z revolution. So he can revive that revolution, try to sanitize his name in the eyes of the members of the public, fashion himself as a victim, of a brutal, corrupt government. And with the kind of a person that the DP is, that message may likely reach the people who are the common mwananchi, because he's a man who has or who is blessed with oratory skills. So that's something that really needs to consider taking. So in terms of picking that risk, there is also the possibility that if he resigns, then because President Ruto would not have another way to kill him through parliament, then the other option would be to now try to cut his feet by taking him to court, and so that the issues of corruption charges or corruption which are being alleged that he committed and forms part of the impeachment proceedings, or will form part of that impeachment proceedings and form part of that discussions, those kind of evidence may eventually find their way to court in the event that he resigns. So the EACC may be used as a tool to drag him to court and really cut his feet, so he won't have the opportunity to go back or to engage in politics as it should be because he would be spending so much of his time in court. So those are two. The first option is if he resigns, then the truth is he would be salvaging his political career. At least you can give or take maybe 70 to 30%. So he would be salvaging his political career. So the 30% would be that maybe government would still want, the Ruto administration would still want to frustrate him and push him through courts. So in the event that the court finds him to be corrupt, because some of these things take time, then eventually they may find a way of blocking him from running for public office in the event that he is found guilty of whatever allegations that have been leveled against him. So as at now, and in terms of the kind of evidence that we are seeing, the kind of allegations that have been leveled against him, and the kind of affidavits that are now coming, it is a very serious consideration. I think it is a very serious consideration for the deputy president to look at the issue of resigning, because then that would possibly boost his or even salvage his political career. The other option is he sits down and decides to really go through with this thing. That would be, for a start, very messy, I think. And if he decides to sit down and go through with the hearing, it could only be for possibly two things. One, it could be political. Two, he would want to also speak directly and say or state his side of the story. And if, the worst come to worst, then possibly even spill the beans. And what better place to do that than in parliament, when you are on your defense? So people would be really willing to know, or be interested to know, what is his story, what is he going to tell the people, what does he know? Because as you know right now, it is not that Ruto has the interest or the trust of the people. No, he lost that trust, in as much as Gachagua also lost the trust of the people. So there is this double standard which is now embedded in the minds of many, that why only Gachagua? Why shouldn't they just, all of them, the president and the deputy, why shouldn't all of them go? So that kind of argument, that kind of stand, eventually would make it a very interesting scenario for the people to just to know what really Gachagua has to say about Ruto and in his own defense. So all these things, I believe that if Deputy President Gachagua decides to sit through and the impeachment proceedings, it would not be for anything other than to try and bring down the whole house, to ensure that even if at the tail end he is impeached, then the government would be left with a greater dent and suffering and worse of image than it has currently. So that is basically what you would wish to do. But if you look at it, because the assumption is that if he sits through, and I believe this cuts across the country, that if he sits through the impeachment proceedings, then it is that he would be actually impeached. How about the flip side? If you consider the flip side is it presents a more profitable outcome for the deputy president in terms of in terms of politics. The flip side is that if he's not impeached, then basically people will be saying that he wasn't actually guilty of what is being leveled against him, but it was just a scheme by people around the president to have him gone, because he's a truthful man. He's a man who just listens to the ground, because this is the kind of a person. he's fashioned himself to be. He's been this kind of a person who speaks of, he understands the ground, he listens to the ground. So basically trying to tell the people that he is not loyal to any man, but to the people, that his actions are only guided by what the people want. So in the event that he is not impeached or Parliament votes not to impeach him, then it would come there much, much stronger. And if he comes there much, much stronger, then Ruto or the president would be the greatest loser in terms of his political ambitions going forward, because I believe the president would want to go for second term. So with the lost trust between him and Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, I don't think that would be possible. So having a deputy president whom you put through an impeachment process, then he ends up victorious or not impeached, then you'll be having a number two who is an opposition within your government, which is a very dangerous outcome which would be a very dangerous outcome for the president. You cannot have a deputy president who is opposing you from within, because we've seen this kind of narrative play out before under the president Uhuru Kenyatta and President Ruto during the administration when Ruto was the deputy president then. It was a very difficult moment for President Uhuru Kenyatta to really run the government when his deputy was actively opposing him. That difficulty was only salvaged when Raila Odinga opted to join government and to assist the president. So he gave the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, a bit of leverage. So that kind of political play, we are seeing it currently. And unfortunately for President Ruto is that it has happened so early in his term. So Deputy President Gachagua has 3 years to really decampaign Ruto in Mount Kenya, if at all is eventually found, if at all Parliament or National Assembly does not impeach him. So he'll come out much stronger. He'll come out with a lot of zeal, liberated, and as you know, people generally like or tend to associate themselves with people who they deem to be victims. So it happens, people elect governments, but they never support those governments. People are always against the government. So that will happen. It will play out when Gachagua is not impeached. Will more likely come around and try to hijack the Gen Z and try to now speak about these ills that are happening in the government, because now we would owe no one any loyalty. So it would be like a rabid dog. Somebody who is now has been scared and would want to now build his own political base and be the kingpin of Mount Kenya as it is. Right now, you cannot particularly say that is the kingpin, but I assure you, if in the event that he comes out the other end unscathed, the kind of charm offensive that he'll employ towards central Kenya in order to galvanize his base would be tremendous. I believe it would be a lot. It would just be going there. So an idle deputy president who is not trusted by the government or by his president or boss, he would be there. So he would have a title with which he can't do nothing. But are people behind him? Central Kenya has a lot of votes, and those cannot be taken away. In the event he comes out of this unscathed, then all the Central Kenya MPs who signed that motion most of them will kiss their political ambitions in 2027 goodbye, because Gachagua would be trying to now build with people he trusts. He can no longer trust these people because those people he deems them as Ruto's people. So he'll have to develop or try to build afresh with people who he believes are loyal to him. And I think that is the problem the deputy president currently have. He does not have the people in parliament currently who can actually stand for him. And that this is why, for the first time since since 2010, when our constitution was enacted, a president has been bold enough, or parliament has been bold enough to bring about an impeachment motion against the deputy president. It is not that the deputy president currently, or Rigathi Gachagua, is the first one to have behaved in a, or uttered words or conducted himself in a manner that would warrant impeachment. No, because I believe there are certain things that he's doing or is being accused of, which, if you look at what Ruto did under President Guru's administration, you could say they are on all fours similar to what Rigathi Gachagua is being accused of. For instance, there is this issue of which Rigathi Gachagua keeps on talking about, is usiguze Mrima, usiguze Mrima. So he says them out loud. He says them out loud, and when Raila Odinga came into, or let's say donated some of his people, Gachagua was really strong and spoke openly why the people or the positions that Mount Kenya had before should not be reduced. So for him, he was speaking openly and defending Mount Kenya here, Mount Kenya there. And I think that is how they used whatever he was saying to really hold him to account. Okay, and gather all this evidence, because that was open tribalism. So it was so easy to pin him. So Ruto also did the same thing, but he wasn't out and about talking about those things as Gachagua is doing in this administration. I do remember when Raila Odinga came into, or after the handshake, and there was a bit of reshuffle under Uru's administration. There was this fear that some of his lieutenants or Ruto's loyalists would be thrown out. So, but people would know that Ruto refused. So he retained all the seats. He retained all the seats that his party uh, or that Kalenjins had. So he retained all those seats. However, he wasn't ever out championing the cause of Kalenjins only, as we are seeing the deputy president doing. He was never out championing the interest of one region only, as we are seeing the deputy president is doing. So basically, what Gachagua more or less offered a tool or a noose to the government or to Ruto to hang him. That is what happened. What he was saying, how he conducted himself with governors, and he did so boisterously and with arrogance. What he was doing here in Nairobi, he shouldn't have done it, but he came out so openly against a sitting governor. Right now, the governor is going to be one of the witnesses. That is Governor Sakaja, to be one of the witnesses, and is put in his affidavit who is going to testify against the deputy president. And um, I believe that he may end up being impeached. He may end up being impeached, whether or not that the Senate will rubber stamp that impeachment is another issue altogether. But there is a possibility that the National Assembly will actually impeach him. So if it goes to the Senate and the Senate also rubber stamps that impeachment, then he is cooked. So right now, in my honest opinion, I believe that the best option, I do not have all the facts, I do not know how prepared he is in terms of confronting the allegations that are leveled against him, or in terms of defending himself against their allegations. I believe that he needs to seriously sit down with his advisors and speak openly and honestly about the advantages and disadvantages of resigning. So basically, the disadvantages of resigning are the advantages of sitting through that impeachment proceedings. So that is a decision that the deputy president may consider as a person, and in view of what he wants to do in future. I hope he makes the correct decision. I do hope he makes the correct decision for the sake of country. It would save a lot if he resigned at this stage. It would be a bit embarrassing if he proceeds with the impeachment proceedings and risk it all and actually lose it all. And that means that he's found to have committed the offenses that are leveled against him. That would be most embarrassing for him, and that would really kill his political ambitions completely. And once that happened, the next thing the president would do is he would he would now come out. I believe he would come out openly, give this position to another person, and try to galvanize and go back to Central and try to be the kingpin that he was before. I believe the president is really having a difficult balancing act on how to deal with this issue. But he is a man, as so many know, that also like to take risks. He's also taking a risk in this issue, and he knows that his political career also hangs in the balance in as much as Gashagua's political career hangs on the balance, because there is at stake 4 million votes from that side. And those 4 million votes was guaranteed insofar as Gachagua was with him. And I believe that in terms of we may not, so many people may say that Gachagua does not have the support of the people of Mount Kenya. But you really have to understand, and this is not only particular, that this is not only specific to Kikuyus or the people of Mount Kenya as a whole. It happens all over. It is with Luos, it is with Kalenjins, it is with Kambas, that if you want to understand the voting blocks in this community, you really have to understand the thinking of the common man in those communities. For instance, there is a particular thinking within the common Kikuyu man. The common Kikuyu man cares less about the allegations. I don't think they care so much about the allegations that are being leveled against Gachagua, because for them, in as much as you are saying that this guy is divisive, the fact that he's speaking for them and defending them, that one endears him to them. They feel that he actually loves us. He actually protects us. Because the Kikuyu politics, as always, somebody has to be, there has to be a bogeyman who wants to destroy them. And then there has to be a savior. So the bogeyman for many years has been Raila Odinga. has been used as a scarecrow that rallies them together. And as it's turning out, Rigathi Gachagua has been in Ruto's government right now, is been seen as the defender, the truthful man, the man who speaks for the people, the man who listens for the people or listens to the common uh, uh, man, the common Kikuyu man. So kind of this kind of uh, uh, this kind of idea that is actually the protector of the larger Mount Kenya endears him, not the elite. You got your answer on Friday. Even if he is kicked, if he is not kicked out, he will have over 400, no, rather over 4 million votes to bargain with. So this is a man who can actually decide. I believe to handle the situation without him. I believe is going to is also making calculations on how to deal with the issue and how to move it going forward. So as to the questions, should Rigathi Gachagua resign or sit through the impeachment proceedings? It depends on what the man wants to do. In my honest view, is that he should resign. He should resign rather than risk his political career. Thank you very much. That would mark the end of this live stream. I do hope if you're watching us, do kindly like the video, share, and also if you are new to us, just subscribe. Until next time, have a good night.